Teen Sharp alumni of 4 years. Started Teen Sharp when I was a freshman. Now I'm a freshman again at Gettysburg College. I've, of course, written so many essays that I've gone to so many schools and have a lot of experience just conveying your story over Google Docs or Word document or whatever you're writing about. So, yeah.
Also, Elijah, we have someone in the thick of all of this right now, a senior right now. So, Daniela, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Daniela Rosiles Torres. I was actually born in Mexico, but been living here for most of my life since I was 3 years old. Shout out to my parents. Saludos a la familia. And I'm also the founder of the Minorities Go to College club at my school, which is basically like a small Teen Sharp version. And then shout out to Yasmin, she's also the co-founder. and yeah, I've been working closely with Miss Tatiana, Miss Kim, getting everything done. I'm a senior at John Dickinson High School, by the way. But yeah, just getting everything done with the personal essay, with the supplements and all of that. And yeah, we've been working together since, I think this is my 3rd year in Teen Sharp. And I've already applied to Cornell University and in the process of applying to the University of Delaware.
All right, everyone, we're gonna send positive vibes to Daniela, who's in the process, waiting hopefully to hear great news from Cornell University. So we're gonna have a lively conversation today. Daniela made me think of something that I must do because she gave shout outs. I have to give shout out to my children, Zoriana, Nizar, and Taras. They're probably hopefully watching or in bed, and I wanna make sure they know I shouted them out as well. So we're gonna jump right into the conversation. What is a personal statement essay? I'm gonna start with Tatiana. Just talk through what is this essay if someone hasn't started yet or they're just unfamiliar with the process.
Absolutely. So the personal statement essay has multiple names. So many people call it a common application essay. They call it a college essay, right? It's all the same thing. You know, it's the same 650 words that you send to every single college you apply to. You know, so there are multiple ways how students can apply to colleges. You know, some colleges have their own application process. Majority of the colleges do find themselves on common application. And there is also an application form called Coalition. So for every single one, no matter where you apply to, how you apply to, you will be sending this one up to 650-word essay to every single college. Again, personal statement, college essay, common application essay, it's all the same thing. And it's a story of your life. You know, there is no other way for us to put it. You know, even though if you're applying through common application, there are 5 or 6 prompts, and students always get hung up, well, which prompt are we answering? You know, no matter which prompt you're answering, you gotta be telling a story of your life. So you're telling things that really matter, that help illuminate you, what you've been through, like what drives you, what wakes you up at night, what inspires you, what hopes you have for yourself and for your community, right? The struggles that you've overcome, right? So those are the range of different topics that can be discussed through the personal statement essay. You know, again, no matter whichever prompt that you choose, you know, that will be the content that you're going to be presenting to admission officers.
Thank you so much. So let me think about, we talked in episode 1 about, well, you send to colleges, when you apply to college, you send your GPA, your transcript, right? You send potentially standardized test scores, but this year, because of the pandemic, most schools are going test optional. But Elijah, you have, if someone has a high GPA and they have great, you know, standardized test scores, you know, why does this essay even matter?
Because it's the qualitative part of the essay. It separates the numbers from the person. It tells the unique story that you have, right? Like everyone, like a lot of people, the average GPA for an American student is like an A, I think, right? So even if you have an A, applying to these top schools where everyone has an A, you're not going to stand out. You're going to stand out once you tell your own personal stories and the times where you were sad or you felt pain or you were happy. You put that on a piece of paper in 650 words. An admissions officer reads it and they get to know who was Elijah besides the grades and the academics and the extracurricular activities. It's the closest thing you could get to a one-on-one conversation besides the interview.
Okay, Danielle, I want to bring you in. What's the value you felt as you just applied? What value did you feel of that part of your application versus all the other parts?
Yeah, like I'll echo some of the things that Elijah said. I mean, they could look at my GPA, they could look at my the numbers basically. But I feel like with the personal essay, they wouldn't be able to gather like me as a person. They wouldn't be able to understand perhaps why I did certain clubs, why I participated in certain extracurricular activities, or why, at first I chose like a small charter school that, wasn't really that great academically, but then was able to transfer thanks to TeenSHARP. Like they wouldn't be able to gather all of that information and like kind of see the background and my struggles and like my passions and why they became my passions.
So you're telling me, Daniela, you're telling me in 650 words, Tatiana, I'm gonna bring you in on this, 650 words, they really can tell, right, all the stuff that Daniela and Elijah, all the students we've worked with are experiencing, are going through, right? 650 words, really?
Really? 650 words, that's all we've got, and we got to make it work. And from my experience over the past 11 years, it really, if it's well put together, 650 words, with a lot of creativity in there, it can really do a lot, right? And so kind of to reiterate what Elijah mentioned, like this is the only part of the application when you speak. Right? It's not the numbers that are speaking, that's not the school that is speaking, that's not your teachers who are offering letters of recommendation that you do not see, right? You don't know what is there, so you're hoping it's going to be strong, So that's one part of the application where you gotta speak and you got a chance to say whatever it is that you wanna say. Every A is not the same. Right? Every A is not the same. There are some students who are able to achieve A's despite great odds, right? Every A is not the same. There are some students who are going above and beyond in their classes because they are like geeky, they're nerdy, they love the stuff that they're learning, right? And admissions love to see that because at the end of the day, admission officers in colleges are selecting students who can succeed on their campus, right? And so they're looking for pieces of evidence, personality, characteristics, qualities, behaviors, all of those things, right? That are going to assure them that this is a kid who is curious, this is a kid who is compassionate, this is a kid who is going to be able to rise above the challenges that they experience, right? Who is going to be helpful to their peers, who are going to create things, who are going to take advantage of the variety of resources that our colleges are offering on campus. And you have 650 words to assure them that you are the one, right? So in addition to your transcript, which is numeric, right, that shows the classes that you've taken, how you've challenged yourself, and how hard you worked, you get a chance to also share that, listen, when you look at this transcript that has all these numbers, whether you like those numbers or you don't, right? Listen to my story. This is what it took for me to be able to produce these numbers.
Thank you. Elijah, you think they're reading these, right? They're getting thousands of applications. Gettysburg, I don't know how many they got, but they got a lot, right? It's a very selective college that you are attending right now. They're reading all of these? What do you think?
That's their job. So I would hope they're reading all of it, especially the many rewrites and drafts. Like not even me, but like in TeenSHARP, I've seen other seniors just like put in so much time and effort into the essays. I hope they're reading them.
Okay. We're going to go to break soon, but what just high level? I'm going to kind of tease our audience. What did you write about? What did you write about? And then we'll hopefully hear some of what you wrote about.
Wait, so I
yeah, just what did you write about in general? Yeah.
Okay, I mean in general, I basically wrote about how I don't fit, and I like the regular mold. I don't fit the mold as like a Mexican woman. As I don't know, I've done a lot of activism and stuff, advocating for undocumented students and students of color. I don't really fit those molds, like the mold about just being complacent, like letting teachers, just like let certain racist activity happen and very ignorant comments happen in the classroom. Like I'm not cool with that. I'm not just gonna let stuff like that happen. So I kind of just talked about those different things, how I'm not just gonna stay quiet and I'm gonna speak up, speak out my truth.
Yes, yeah. I didn't even hear the essay, and I'm ready to accept you. By Cornell. Elijah, what did you write about?
So my essay was about my very early on passion for cooking.
Okay.
I've kind of strayed away from it now, but through like metaphors and similes in the essay, I compared like my young passion for cooking and how that is like, how those certain skills that I developed when I was like 8 or 9 has helped me as a 18-year-old man, like through certain tragedies and trials.
Okay, awesome. So we will, after we have a little break, we're going to hear some of that from you, and I'm excited about it. I want to tell those that are watching once again to put in the comments if you have questions so we can address your specific questions, and we also want you to sign up at teensharp.org, www.teensharp.org/college knowledge. Sign up so that we can start to support you. We have, we'll send you emails, we'll send you text messages. You can text us with questions. So if you're watching and you're going to hear things and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know, what to do in the process. That's what TeenSHARP is here for. So we're going to take a break in a second, and when you come back, we're going to hear some of these powerhouse essays and go more into the topic.
I don't know, ever since I was small, I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to give back to my community. And for that reason, I knew that college was for me.
I moved here from the Dominican Republic 2 years ago, and I had no idea about the education system or how it worked, and I didn't speak English at all. And TeenSHARP was a great help for me to guide me and tell me all the things I had to do. And Miss Kim and Miss Tatiana were always there, and the whole team were always there to teach me and to guide me.
I've been in TeenSHARP for 4 years, ever since I was a freshman. TeenSHARP has played a big role in my life. I go every majority of the Saturdays, not even gonna lie.
I just want to be an example for everyone that's coming after me, and I want to be able to be that person for someone who is looking up to me, because I know there's a lot of people who are counting on me. So the main thing is just the fact that I want to be an example, and I want to let people know that it is possible to do.
Let it now be my mom.
Bueno, mejor yo no sé cómo decirlo, pero me siento muy orgulloso de usted por todo lo que está haciendo en su estudio.
But you are my hero.
You're my hero.
You are the person more honest that I know in my life. And I want to say in English because I want that you know that I am trying for.
Nikai, I will always love you. You're always a very strong girl, no matter what the decision is. Always know I will support you and I will always be there. And you can make it. You are a very strong, intelligent girl. And I'm always forever gonna be proud of you, no matter what the decision is.
I am honored to be your mother. I am so honored to be your mother.
Hi, Alex. It's Dawn from Dickinson College. I'm here with Natalia in Paris. Hi. And we wanted to offer you your acceptance to Pittsburgh class of 2024.
Come see Mom.
No, I'm dying here.
Hey, congratulations! You got it?
Hi, Nikai. It's Dawn from Pittsburgh College.
Hi.
I'm here with Paris and Natalia.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Well, you're actually going to be a whole lot better as a part of Pittsburgh College.
It says your connection was interrupted. Okay, welcome to Carleton College on behalf of the admissions committee and the Carleton.
Oh, baby, I love you. I love you. I love you so much. This is yours. This is yours.
Welcome back to College Knowledge. We're focusing on personal statement essays today. We're walking families and college, high school seniors through the process of how do you write a winning personal statement essay. So we already started talking about what it is, right? 650 words, got to pack a punch, right? You're trying to tell the college something really important about you in a short amount of words. We have people who are working on the applications right now. We have a student who's in college, thinking about his first semester, but he obviously wrote a winning essay to get into his college. And Tatiana, my co-founder of TeenSHARP, who's worked with hundreds of seniors over the years on these. And so we promised you before the break that we were going to hear some and see some examples of winning personal statement essays. And so I'm gonna start with Daniela. What is Cornell getting right now? So we're not reading the whole thing, we're gonna read just a little bit, but give them a taste of what you wrote about.
Yeah, okay, I'll read some excerpts. My father and mother left their native Mexico with me as a 2-year-old child to cross the U.S.-Mexico border in search of a better life. What they found instead was a life where every day they are punished for their lack of citizenship and lack of academic credentials. I, on the other hand, found another paradigm to be a Mexican woman. In that paradigm, my life is about more than just looking beautiful to appeal to the male gaze. I don't have to follow false dichotomies suggesting that I cannot be both a girly girl wearing a dress and a tomboy getting comfortable in basketball shorts. Within this paradigm, I don't have to cook to show that I care for my siblings. I can show my love for them by affirming my 8-year-old brother and his preference to play with dolls, or by teaching my 12-year-old brother how to recognize toxic masculinity in our culture and do better. The paradigm I'm imposed on me didn't fit after I discovered how the racial project pitted disenfranchised groups against each other to prevent the repeat of the Bacon Rebellion of 1676. Everything that I learned at TeenSHARP, a college preparatory organization that exposed me to this rare historical and sociological truth, and as an advocate with the Delaware Youth Advocacy Council, came together in the wake of the George Floyd murder. I could not be silent about the misleading nomenclature that called basic courses in our school's college preparatory. I had to call out teachers' complacency when my white peers routinely made ignorant comments in our classes. This undocumented Mexican girl did what she was never allowed to do: speak up. I have every intention to return to Mexico one day. When I do, however, I will be coming to make history. The paradigm has shifted, and I am here to cause good trouble, necessary trouble, locally and globally.
Yes. Oh man, that's what personal statement can do, right? You didn't even hear the whole thing. This was just some pieces of it. It's like that's what amazing personal statement. Just like kudos to you, Daniela. Like you're in. You're gonna be in. I got it right. Last week, Mr. Anthony was on here. He was claiming things, and we're claiming things this time as well. That was powerful, and that's what we're trying to show. When you write in this way, grades, you need to have the grades, right? You need to have other things in place, but how do you make people see your application, right, in the context of all the other applications that they're reading? So Elijah, you're up. What do you give us a taste?
It's really hard to follow, but I will read some excerpts from my essay. At the age of 8, exactly 2 years after I first encountered the activity, I became a national chess champion. After hundreds of hours spent learning the rules of the game and analyzing plays, I learned to apply the same precision I used to cook perfectly julienne carrots and a perfect steak to strategize my checkmates against my opponents. This precision also paid off at the hours of work in my family business. When working alongside my father at our restaurant hood cleaning business, in the wee hours before school, I gave anal attention to detail that I demonstrated every year when cooking a full Thanksgiving meal for my family. That earned me the title of Regional Manager of the East Coast. Okay, the title may be self-assigned, but the responsibility that it holds is real. Cooking not only equipped me with the flexibility to navigate unfamiliar times and adversarial spaces, but the precision to execute tasks and strategic moves that helped create an authentic connection between me and my immigrant family. And even though my pork chop failed to satisfy the taste of the judges at the MasterChef Junior competition, as long as my culinary results pleased my grandfather, I was always content.
All right. Let's give a round of applause for that. I'm ready for some pork chop and for turkey, but just like what I wanted to emphasize with that, Tatiana, I would love you to share more about this. We've been looking at essays for 11 years, and there are a lot of misconceptions about this that we're going to spend some time right now to debunk. Right? So you read an essay about pork chops and chess and everything was baked into that, no pun intended. But what are some of the misconceptions that you see when people are writing these essays?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I get to misconceptions, let me kind of just also emphasize some of the things that we heard from both pieces of the essays that Daniela and that Elijah read. So for one, we talked about things that admission officers would not find on the resume, and that is one of the misconceptions, like repeat, the biggest awards that I've received, or the clubs that I've started. Like, these things already discussed in your application, right? If you are applying through Common Application, there is an activity section and you've listed those things, you've described them, right? So unless there is really, truly something to kind of speak more and give more volume and more context to what this activity is, like, maybe that should not be the story that you tell, right? Daniela talked about how she, how she doesn't fit the mold of being a Mexican woman, right? What a beautiful story and beautiful way to talk about your identity, right, in a very critically thinking way, right, to emphasize your quirks, to show how I am in a day life. One day I'm a girly girl, another day I'm a tomboy, right? Like, and then to show how being not fitting in the paradigm makes you a greater leader, a more bold leader, and so on and so forth, right? So how could admission officer find that out if you didn't write about that? No how. But that is something that makes Daniela, right? Like, that's her, and so that gave really perfect coloring to the rest of the application. Mm-hmm. Elijah talking about cooking. Cooking, how he went to the junior grand, cook show, right? Where else in the application would admission officer find that out? And as a matter of fact, right, Elijah was able in his essay to show the connection to his chess championship and how easily he learns and how precision really matters. I mean, if I'm an admission officer and I'm reading an application for a student who might be interested in STEM fields or whatever, right, like, that's precisely the stuff that I'm looking for, right? So without saying like, oh, I'm a sciencey person, you just said you're a sciencey person. Because what is more sciencey than cooking? A delicious meal that your whole family would appreciate. Like, it's really stressful. So those are some really great ways to begin to understand what is expected. And so to juxtapose that, what is not expected? What is not expected is a very high-level essay where you do not give those examples, right? Examples, your stories is what really matters. There are so many kids who are going to apply to college who are going to say, I am hardworking, I am ambitious, I am very independent, I am a leader, right? But what does these terms mean is very different depending on what stories you tell, right? So for one kid, it's about, becoming, persisting and persevering and trying out himself at the junior chef show, right? For another kid, it's about, trying out and doing Minorities Go to College Club, right? So that means very different things. And so your essay helps understand what these different concepts truly mean. So you do not want to keep it very general, like the way you would write an English essay on the normally. You do not want to write about the essay that is also not selling your current self. So even though Elijah was made a few references to his accomplishments before he even turned 10, right? The rest of his essay was exactly connecting to how he is right now. And I've seen many essays where students would really talk about this great story of birth, miraculous, and how things happen, but that tells nothing about who an admission officer is admitting right now.
So let's enumerate some of these so that those that are watching, right, can get an understanding. So misconceptions that you have to restate what's in your application, right? Tatiana is saying that don't waste time on things that they already know, unless you're going to go deeper, into that, or tell something that has a new insight. People think that it needs to be kind of written like an essay, like that they write about at school, like a normal kind of essay versus like a creative style essay. I think another one, and we'll get into that more about that, you think you can't write about a range of topics, right? That you can only kind of stay in this narrow bucket. And I think that's really interesting to talk about, Elijah.
So some of like the basic generic topics like admissions officers tell us to stay away from is like being the sports captain and like, oh, the big sports game, and because everyone's a sports captain and everyone plays sports. The injury, like coming back from a leg injury, like that, those kind of things that don't make you stand out, right? I think once people realize, like, just tell who you are, because college and business officer, they're like the GM, like they're trying to build a good team. They're trying to like build a good cohort, like they're trying to like these students, like they want to bring them on campus so they can help each other, so they can have different personalities to just make it a good environment. So just paint yourself as someone who can live, someone who can live with 900 people their age and get along and learn from one another. Just like your best qualities, the teamwork, the qualities that show that, like Danielle said, like her helping her siblings, that was really good, because what if your floor mate is like having some trouble? Like admissions officers look for those kind of things. Like they're trying to just build a good cohort of students. So just look like you can just add to the school. Yeah.
Daniela, did you have either some misconceptions about it before you kind of worked with TeenSHARP, or your friends that you're interacting with, are they misunderstanding what this is? And what kind of misconceptions?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, before TeenSHARP, I mean, I was just kind of going with the flow. I didn't really know about like the college application process, and like I noticed that like I still kind of went with the flow, but then there was like TeenSHARP there guiding me through the process and stuff. I feel like if I were to have done it by myself, I would probably gotten really like stressed out, and I would be like, oh, these new things popping up, like I don't know, like oh, the CSS faster, like I don't know, it would be like completely like confusing for me. But yeah, and then like with some other peers, what I've noticed that they tried talking about is like, oh, their grandma, like or their mom or something like that, and then they focus too much on that like particular person, and it's like, yeah, again, like the college admissions, they're trying to admit you as a person, not your grandma, not your mom. So yeah, definitely like, yeah, they could have like a big impact in your life, and you can like write about them and how they've influenced your life, but then try to like wrap it up and talk about your life again.
Yeah, I think that's what people, I've seen this happen where people get so caught up in the story of someone else, like they're not trying to get in, they're trying to get you in. So we have a question that came from the audience about how much does this weigh versus grades and other things.
Yeah. So it's different depending on a college that you apply to, honestly. So some colleges really pay attention to your transcript, and that's your way in and that's your way out, right? So that's where the 7 minutes or 5 minutes that the admission spent reading your application, like that's where it's going to be on your transcript, and they will just kind of glance over your personal statement. Some colleges even, quite frankly, waived the requirement. They don't require personal statement anymore. Those are typically less competitive schools that admit a lot more students from the pool that is applying. But then there are colleges that for which this really, really matters. So they will start off with a transcript, and they will evaluate the strength and the weaknesses of the applicant. But then they're going to go to the essay, and they're going to look for answers. So if there was a tough 9th grade, or if there was a tough junior year, or there was a tough sophomore year in terms of grades are particularly dropped, or they've been low and then they became high, they're going to look for the story. They're going to say, well, what did you say? Tell us, right? Like, what did you tell us in terms of the evolution that you've went through, or how you've learned, a life event that has happened, that has caused you to drop down, right? They're going to look for that evidence. And so liberal arts colleges is a particular category that admissions typically do spend longer reading the essay, reading the college application, and the big part of it is because they spend longer time evaluating, dissecting the personal statement essay. So for a number of our students in TeenSHARP who might not have a perfect transcript, and there is a really strong reason for it, maybe a student is an English language learner, maybe there was a life event that has happened, that we really want to make sure that their personal statement tells the story that we want to tell.
Thank you so much. I mean, we're getting some questions from the audience. We're going to have to go to a break, and we'll come back and answer those questions. People want to know, okay, well, how do I write this, right? We talked about some of the misconceptions. We talked about what if, where do you start? What do you have writer's block? That's one of the questions that came in. So we'll get into that after the break, so you can understand where do you go from here. If you were just getting started, if you haven't put anything on paper yet, we'll walk you through what was the process for our student panelists, and also reach out TeenSHARP.org /college knowledge, and we can also support you more in depth after the show. Watching his face like, what is happening right now?
Try again, go back to the email. and see your email if in case they send anything to your email. Just look at your inbox while we're waiting.
Wait, calm down, guys.
Hold on. Oh my gosh.
Calm
My
down.
gosh,
Calm
it's
down.
happening.
Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, guys.
It's a video.
What's that?
It's a video. It says welcome 2024.
Welcome back to College Knowledge. We are in the thick of talking about how to write a personal statement essay, how to really hit the heartstrings for admissions officers. And if it's not a kind of emotional, you don't have to write an emotional essay, but just one that really shows them how unique you are. I just want to say, because sometimes people will think, right, in your story, like, some stories are there's, tears, right? You read it, tears, you're crying, you're cheering, like I was about to, but sometimes it's just, there have been essays I've read about the Boondocks, right, about bacon, right? I mean, I read someone that liked the smell of bacon, and people realize that you could write about this range of topics. Tatiana, read maybe another intro for someone, and then we're going to spend some time in this segment just talking about your process. How do you write? How does someone get started?
Absolutely. So here's one. For almost a decade, I've lived the life of a chameleon, indiscriminately conforming to my surroundings. At 8, I learned that nonconformity can be costly. Just reaching out to a new student sitting alone during lunch cost me my friend group and a peace of mind. As if my camouflage had disappeared, revealing a different person as a result of my friendly gesture, suddenly my friends found my appearance and character mock-worthy. You're too nice. You don't fit in. You're too dark. These words hurt me more than the beanbags they hurled at me during gym. In the days that followed, I studied every pimple on my forehead, the color of my skin, and the baby curves my maturing body was acquiring. My mind took it further, convincing me that my kindness was too much and my intelligence was not enough. For my so-called friends, this was just an argument that ended with a sorry. For me, it was the start of a journey to discover my passion and a deeper level of connectedness with my loved ones. So here's an introduction. This is just an introductory paragraph for a student. As we can see, started off like really previewing an early traumatic event where there was some bullying, a case of bullying from a friend group, and kind of introspection and reflection on what has transpired since. And the rest of the essay told that story. What has transpired since, and how the student was able to discover passion for psychiatry, for counseling, right, through a personal journey of still recovering even years later from those traumatic events.
So powerful stuff. So you're sitting in front of a blank piece of paper, and you're like, where do I go? So how did you get to your eventual essay?
So as a senior, the summer of your senior year, we're required to do 25 prompts, and they are the most random questions you could ever think of. And if you ever complete Application Ninja, which is just like applying for different scholarships or different opportunities, you'll run across these kind of questions. They'll ask you like, oh, what is an area of growth that you had? Or like, tell us about like your favorite memory. Those kind of questions that just pull on different stories about your life. Because I think too often people can oversimplify themselves and think, oh, I'm not special. I haven't gone through anything. But after answering the 25 prompts, you think, I do have a story to tell. And if you don't have access to the 25 prompts, I think you should think about like, what's one thing that you couldn't do? That you could do now, whether that was 4 years ago, a year ago, this summer, or like yesterday. Think about anything you couldn't do, and just think about how you were able to grow, like that kind of growth, like be vulnerable, but also be strong at the same time, like.
Yeah, I mean, so for anyone watching, you know, in TeenSHARP we have a process, and in the process, as Elijah was talking about, we've come up with 25 questions, and we tell students, don't write essays, just write bullets, just to get you thinking about different things about your life. Like, what's the most amazing story you can tell? Or what's your most embarrassing moment, right? Or random, you said they're random, right? Random things to start thinking about, because what we found over the years is people think that they have to write a like a certain thing about the injury, the sports injury, and they don't realize they could write about pork, right? Or write about the Boondocks, or the show that they like. So whether you have our 25 prompts, which we can, if you go to teensharp.org, college knowledge, you can make sure we get you those. Whether you have those or not, it's really just with your parents, right? Just start thinking about, you know, a variety of things about yourself, probing about yourself, and try to figure out what could be, you know, some things that are interesting. Daniela, so what was your process of coming up with your essay?
Yeah, well, like Elijah, I also started doing the 25 prompts. I think we started like, I don't know, it feels like a really long time, to be honest. I feel like since June or something, like the end of the junior year and then throughout the summer. And yeah, I was just writing writing about the different prompts and stuff. And I think too that really like helped me really get my draft together was what challenges have kind of made you passionate about whatever you're passionate about. And then the other one is, what piece of advice would you give to yourself if you could go back in time? And yeah, as you can see, that kind of like helped me a lot. And then, yeah, I definitely got writer's block when I got to, like, the actual draft though, because I was like, which one should I pick? I don't know. It feels, I just didn't know where to start with the actual draft. And then I ended up meeting with Miss Tatiana, and then she looked over all of my drafts. Also, some peers would also, like, edit the drafts, and they would add like, oh, well, can you elaborate more on the Minorities Go to College Club, or this would be really good to put in your personal essay. But yeah, and then Ms. Tatiana, she would like go over them, and she would pick the things that would actually like form the actual personal essay. And throughout it all, she found that the theme was that I did not fit the mold. And yeah, then we just started working on it, and then it ended up like, I don't know, it's so hard putting in 650 words like my life. So I ended up like going over it, and then the word was my draft ended up being like 1,500 words, and then we had to like meet again and kind of like go over it, like cut it down, sometimes summarize and try to, you know, cut down things that might not be as important, or somehow figure it out basically.
Yeah, so there's a part at the beginning that's really just important of like, you know, brainstorming, thinking about what's interesting. I think it's really important for parents that are watching. The parents play an important role, because sometimes your high school senior doesn't realize all the interesting. There was a parent that I remember a moment that was really powerful thinking about this, where we were kind of talking to a TeenSHARP parent, and they were saying how a student, their son, was the best at washing clothes in the house, right? When he goes to the laundromat, he always got it right, and perfect. And we were like, that's the essay, right? Because it really showed something like unique about the student. Like, why were they so meticulous with like washing clothes at the laundromat, mixing kind of the right kind of detergents to get everything right. So Tatiana, what's the process? So you start this brainstorming process, and then what does someone do next?
Yes, so I mean, the brainstorming process is really, really critical. Well-executed brainstorming process, right? You know, because you can brainstorm really sloppily, you know, and very clumsily. That will not lead you nicely to the, you know, on the road to, you know, story discovery. You know, I always make sure that I ask students to kind of elaborate on what it is that you like geek out about. What could you see yourself doing for hours and hours and hours on end? You know, what it is that you're most proud of? What it is that, you know, what challenges are you facing? You know, tell me about your family, the significance of your identity or your heritage, you know, things like that. So like these would be probably my core prompts. Like if you don't do anything else, like this I found to be very, very helpful, you know, and so a lot of times we have been able, as a result of this kind of prompting, identify really interesting stories. I remember working just this, you know, over the past couple of months with a student who, you know, was identifying either really traumatic events in their life that would almost make a reader uncomfortable, you know, and you want to be like, if you went through something like this, you know, you want to like really, you know, tread this fine line, you know, not to make somebody too uncomfortable, and, you know, there's got to be some happiness in the end, right? And so, you know, he was working through these stories, and either stories that were very shallow or like very personal and very like sad, you know, like they did not have an uptick, like they did not have a message of empowerment. But by asking like what do you do? Like what do you do on the regular basis? Like we were able to discover that there is like a really rich world of music that child lives in, you know, and listening to music all the time, you know, while mowing the lawn, which was like really great. You know, we like started off the essay with like how he mows the lawn for 2.5 hours, which was very significant because his family didn't used to have a lawn to mow like until 1.5 years ago. You know, they did not used to live in a house. You know, that was the first home, and so just by using that imagery, we were able to tell so much. You know how this was the first lawn and how significant it was to even own a lawnmower, right? And then what he does during this time, you know, being so busy, like he listens to all the new releases, and then there is a podcast that he like discusses all of this stuff with his friends. So it was a completely different image than of a kid that we were able to paint, which is very important, especially for kids, you know, who are very technical and very STEM driven and want to go into engineering fields. A lot of times they feel like, I need to talk about that robotics competition I've done. And I always tell them, like, how many kids do you think who apply to that field talk about robotics? You know, probably a really, really high number, right? So how special is that? You know, so that is, you know, something that we talk a lot about in the story discovery.
Yeah, I think you really want to, as you think about the phases for how to write these, you really want to think about, you know, when you say story discovery, what do you want to tell unique about yourself, right? So, you know, that I wash clothes, right? You're still telling them something about you, as Elijah was talking about, that you're still telling them something about you that is going to let them understand, you know, why you'd be great for that environment, right? That I'm very meticulous in washing clothes, right? That I'm a leader, I'm an activist, as you said, right? You want to, like, what are these things you want to tell them? And then you think about a theme, and then you know, just like a regular kind of, you know, essay, it shouldn't be a hodgepodge. It should hang together. You know, Elijah, how did that come together for you?
I mean, clearly I'm not like a culinary science major, right? And my essay was like, the common theme was about how I use cooking and being in the kitchen to shape my life. But I just like really sat back and worked with Tatiana and my mom about what would make me a competitive applicant, right? Like the kind of the good things that I showed them my application and the bad things I showed them my application. How does the essay make that story cohesive? Like how does it highlight the good things, and how does it not cover up the bad things, but explain the story, right? Because there's a story to tell for everything. And then I try to use cooking to just explain my attention to detail and my care for others and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important because, and we'll talk more, we'll go to break soon, but I think it's really important because there's students who are watching and parents who are watching who, unfortunately, sometimes in our education system, they only look at their flaws, right? Like, oh, I have this 3.0 GPA or 3.2 GPA or 2.8 GPA, or I'm not good at this, right? But this is your time to tell what your assets are, but also to explain, right? We sometimes think, you know, you have, you know, you might be looking after your younger brother, right? Daniela talks about that, right? You might have other responsibilities. Give context to your situation. Elijah was talking about how you would sometimes be at, you know, working in your family business early in the morning and then going to school, right after that. So like that's important for them to understand. And so this is why this piece is like, don't shortchange this part of the process. And we'll talk when we come back from the break about really how do you get the most out of it, you know, what's the next steps, and how do you get support, because you're definitely going to need support in doing it.
Wait, financial aid award.
Oh my God, that's what they give me? Hold on. $70,000.
Watching his face like, what is happening right now?
Try again, go back to the email. and see your email if in case they send anything to your email. Just look at your inbox while we're waiting.
Wait, calm down, guys.
Hold on. Oh my gosh.
Calm
Oh
down.
my gosh. It's
Calm down.
happening.
Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, guys.
It's a video.
What's that?
It's a video. It says welcome 2024.
All right, we're back. We're going to get more into the nitty-gritty of how do we have success with these personal statement essays. I'm going to start with reading another one, just so you have a taste of some of the examples. This one says, I laughed as Riley responded to the heat wave, as he would have back in the south side of Chicago. He opened the fire hydrant. He splashed and played in the water while the neighbors in the predominantly white suburban town he found himself in stared in confusion and awe. Riley's older brother, Huey, in an attempt to explain the cultural disconnect, yelled a comical but profound statement. White people have pools. There's a reason one of my paintings of Huey, the protagonist of the animated TV series The Boondocks, can usually be found as a cover on my binders. His ability to navigate through and critically assess environments where some have pools and others have fire hydrants seems rather familiar. During any given week, I have the opportunity to experience different sides of Philadelphia as I travel from my weekday home with my mom to my weekend home with my dad. And it goes on. So this is students talking about boondocks. I never saw Boondocks, and the student was like, I want to write about the Boondocks. And I'm like, I don't know, I've never seen it, but I think you could write about it, right? Anything, really, you can write about anything, but it has to connect and it has to hit, right? So, Tatiana, what if someone just wrote about Boondocks? Like, could that be a flop, or how do you make sure it works?
Yeah, no, I mean, you can use, so in Teen Sharp, we talk about, we've tried different metaphors, but sort of the metaphor that we are using is like, imagine it's like a gift box, right? And so there is a box, and there is a wrapper, and there might be a bow on top, right? So and then you put stuff inside of that box. So the theme becomes that box, right? Whatever wrapper color of the wrapper you pick, right? So it could be Boondocks, it could be the book that you read, it could be a cooking show that you're watching, it could be a family routine, right, that you're keen on. I mean, some of our students wrote about how they shop with their parents and what decisions they make in the process as they're picking and choosing what to leave and what to put in the shopping basket. So, and then inside of it, right, like you try to pack in different references that are that suggest a little bit more about who you are as a student. You know, Elijah mentioned, that what stood out to him about Daniela is when she said that, to be a Mexican woman, something like, I do not need to cook for my brothers, but I can affirm them in other ways, or I can teach them in other ways, right? And so it stood out to him. He picked up on that, right? That she has this responsibility that she has to care for her younger siblings, So it didn't need to be more than 2 lines that we dedicated to that. But that's the different things that we strategically put in our gift box once we pick a theme, right? And you want to really be strategic about it, I mean, if you have a perfect track record academically, whatnot, then, your strategic would be a little bit different. But if you do have, a drop in grades at some point, explain that, right? It doesn't need to be the entire essay because you don't want to define yourself through your mistakes, right? Like you want to talk about your assets, but explain what happened there, right? If your family went through a crazy event that like really caused you to be, out of place and not fully committed to your studies for a period of time, explain that. Even if your grades did not drop, but that's what I was talking in the beginning of the show. Every A is not the same, right? Some A's come at a really high personal cost nights not slept, overcoming all sorts of challenges, taking care for your siblings, putting them to bed, and then working on your studies, while somebody else just coming home to everything being stable and just easily delivering on those A's, right? So you wanna highlight, wanna give the flavor to your transcript, because every transcript is not the same.
Yeah, I mean, we always say, and if we would be remiss if we do not say this, but we always say in TeenSHARP, show, do not tell. What does that mean, Daniela? Why? We said it to every that's hard for some people. Show, not tell. Like, what does that mean when you're writing a personal statement?
I mean, it's kind of similar to what y'all were talking about earlier. Like, you could say, like, if you're in the STEM field, like, oh, I'm smart and I like math and stuff like that. But then, like, go deeper with it. Like, don't just say, oh, I'm smart, or, oh, I really care about people, or I want to be a doctor. Like a lot of students that I've, like, a lot of my peers, they talk about how they want to be a doctor, they want to be whatever career they're trying to get in. But why? Like explain why. Like, what thing in your life happened that made you really passionate about this, and then explain how it led to you wanting to become a doctor or a politician or whatever.
Yeah, like if you just say, I'm hardworking, right? Like, so that's just be careful about that, because people say, I'm hardworking, right? I really like this subject. That's telling someone, versus I do the laundry for my family, and right, and just in telling that story, right? You tell them maybe that you're lower income, right? Because you have to go to a laundromat or whatever else you might have your circumstance. You tell them that you have this family kind of commitment, right? So those are the kind of things that are important. But don't just like drop a bunch of like telling on them.
Yeah, and I think we also have to remind ourselves that these admissions officers are people, and that a well-articulated struggle and a well-articulated essay about hardship will be instantly recognized by any other human being who is compassionate, right? Mm-hmm. And just the essay you read, if I was an admissions officer, I would instantly like trust that person, because I understand that struggle of the weekend home in Philly and then the weekday home like somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So understand that, like, if you put yourself on a piece of paper, right, mm-hmm. another human being is going to read that, and they're going to understand the same emotions that you have, they have, right? Yeah. So you just make sure that you're as vulnerable as possible. You don't leave anything out. You don't try to overcompensate by being more stronger than you really are. Like tell the people who you are. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to your point, I always talk about introductions, because your introduction, they're reading thousands of these, so your introduction better hit, right? Like, you should make it hit. But Tatiana, as we're kind of getting close to wrapping up, like, someone's there today and they're just starting, how do they get support? Because it sounds like in TeenSHARP, for sure, if students are getting support, how do they get support to kind of get to a great essay?
Yes, so you have a lot of people around you. Everybody has a lot of people around you, right? So you have your parents, you have grandparents, you have your siblings, you have your teachers, you have somebody who cares about your success, right? So all of these people can play a role in you writing your essay. So begin with the free writes. Write about, just without any concern about like, well, I'm writing an essay. No, just free writes, putting thoughts on paper. That's the step one. Put thoughts on paper about, what you're proud of, what challenges you're experiencing, what is so special about your family, right? Like if you're an immigrant, what's the immigration story? If your family has had any type of evolution, reflect on what the family was like early on and now. If there was a separation in your family, you want to talk about that, right? What do you geek out about, and so on. And then go over this with somebody who cares for you. Let them read it, because to you it might seem normal and maybe there is nothing special that I just said, but somebody will read it and they will say, what stands out to you is that you sound really creative, you sound very artsy. And then write a draft, right? Do not stress yourself out. Write a draft. Even if in your draft you're going to read it then and see that, oh my goodness, I did not offer any examples, right? It's okay. It's always good to iterate on something that you've already produced. You will not produce on the first go a perfect essay. It never happens. Not when you only have 650 words and you have a whole life to say, right? So Daniela told you about how many drafts she's produced. It was pages and pages and pages of free writes. And then her first draft was 1,500 words, right? And then there were multiple iterations to get it to the 650 words. So take the stress off of yourself, start with a free write, get some other people's eyes on it, to help you come up with a story that you're going to say and the outline. Write that outline and then ask yourself, Did I give examples? If I wrote that I'm hardworking, did I say an example of what it means? Oh, if not, insert that. And then what happens in the end is that you can take out the words. When you say I'm hardworking, you can delete that sentence and just keep the story. Keep the story.
Yeah, I think it's critical that you get other eyeballs on it, right? Like for Elijah sitting at Gettysburg on a full scholarship, right? And Daniela, you're going to be sitting at Cornell or wherever you want to go, right? On a full scholarship, right? So that essay really can deliver for you with the other things in your transcript, right? Can really deliver for you, right? It's an essay that, we talk about winning essay, right? It's an essay that you should put some time on, but please talk about mistakes. Typos, right? Like that's not the essay that should have typos, right? It's an essay that you want to make sure your English teacher read over. You want to make sure your parents looked over, right? Other people that in your life that are that care look over. But also for us here in Teen Sharp, reach out to us, right? I want to tell you now. Text us. You can just text us right now, so you don't forget to do it. 302-581-8114. Just say, hey, I need help with my application. I need help with my essay. 302-581-8114. You can text us, and our advisors will get back to you. I know some students have already texted us and asked for, like, can you look at my essay? How can I get more support? So that's one way. But also go to teensharp.org/college knowledge. Sign up there so that we can continue to give you support. We're really excited about this new platform with the College Knowledge Show. Grateful to work with the team at DEV-TV to bring this support to families across the state and in Newcastle County, and grateful to County Executive Matt Meyer and Newcastle County for helping us innovate during this pandemic. So we're here to support you. Text us, join us via our website, follow us on Facebook, Teen Sharp. You can find Teen Sharp on Facebook, so we can support you. This is really important. We want you to reach your goals. We have stories upon stories of our Teen Sharp students that are getting to amazing colleges, getting great financial aid, and don't feel like you don't have support during a really tough time for a lot of us. So we're here to support you. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get some great essays. I'm looking forward to seeing some from others that are watching, getting their ideas, their thoughts, and helping them to really tell why they're so unique and why they're so special.
That's very cool.